We got us some Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro drama talking about Jeffrey Epstein, if he was an intelligence asset for America or Israel. I don't know. Let's see what they
I
say
have
about
my
it
own
all.
sources
I
high
don't
up
know.
in the
Oh, yeah?
law enforcement, let's say. I'll just go that far, who say,
Anonymous
not only do
sources,
we
quote
believe he was
unquote.
an agent, but we don't believe he killed himself.
You know, she's used to saying
I
that,
mean, that's fine. And then they should
being
come
a
out and they should say
television
that.
anchor.
And then they
They
should
always
say
got
he's
their
covering it
anonymous
up.
sources.
Because that
Okay,
would
but
be
this
a
is what
scandal of
Ben,
cataclysmic
they
proportions.
can't. I mean, there are a lot of people who say they can't, right? They
Uh,
can't because
uh-oh.
let's look at what the administration is saying right now. They don't
Megyn,
want to be the one to
Megyn,
cross Trump. Look,
Megyn,
my
here's
Oh,
my
position
problem.
Ben's
is
I have
let's show us all
frustrated.
the evidence so we can come to our own conclusions.
I have
You go.
names of the people. So I agree with you. That's fine. But in
Names
the
of who?
absence of that, I have the names of the people who are making the claim that that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and that the most gross, and sort of extreme of the conspiracy theories or theories.
Well, why don't you just give us the names then? I mean, you say you got the names. I mean, you're on a platform right now. Do you just want to give the names on your show and not on Megyn Kelly's show? I'm sure you're probably streaming this from your show too. So why don't you just give us the names already?
Just don't even call them conspiracy theories. The most sort of extreme version of the
Conspiracy
theory is not true. I have names of the people who are claiming that.
Jeffrey Epstein,
Okay, they are all in
he
the
didn't kill
administration.
himself.
And this is my
There's
point.
no conspiracy there.
If other people want to make those claims that are counter to that, then they should
Uh-oh.
provide evidence. Or at least
Are we
put their
allowed to
names
say
on it so
that?
we can question
Remember
them
when you used to get banned
about
for saying that?
as well? Because otherwise we're just in the realm
Back
of
on
speculation.
the Twitter days,
And frankly, I just
Epstein
don't
didn't
find
kill
that
himself.
useful. I would
You
love
get
more useful
insta-nuked.
information. This is why I'm angry at Pam Bondi. I think there should be all the useful information possible. But the same thing holds true for people who are making claims on the other side. Otherwise, I can claim
Well,
who's working for.
The problem, though, is during the Biden administration, when they were on their way out, did they really destroy the Epstein files? I think they probably did. I mean, if it's only going to hurt their side of the aisle more than it would hurt the Republican side of the aisle, why wouldn't they have done it? I mean, I know it's obviously extremely illegal to have burned up files and stuff like that, but I'm sure they do it all the time. I'm sure the CIA even does it all the time. I'm sure that they shred stuff and burn stuff and get rid of stuff all the time. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's exactly what they did, but it wouldn't surprise me for a second if they did. I mean, there were rumors about the whole USAID thing that they were shredding shit before the Trump administration came in and kind of took over, but I don't know.
A cadre of space aliens who are blackmailing high-profile Americans in order to protect from a future invasion. And there's just about as much
Or
evidence
the
for that as any of
Doge
the
thing.
claims
That's
that
what
are
it was,
being made on the
Doge.
other side.
When Doge went
All right,
in,
well, let's talk
trying to
about
get in
that.
USAID.
Requires evidence. Any claim that's being made requires actual evidence. And at the very least, in the absence of evidence, the credible names of the people that I can either trust or not trust, ranging from, again, the President of the United States and Vice President to the head of the FBI, the AG, and the deputy head of the FBI.
Well, I think it's very hard to say those people need to come out and put their names on these claims when they're working for an administration, this one and the one before, that didn't want that to come out. You're asking somebody to countermand.
Why not be transparent?
How am I supposed to falsify their claims? Now we're working in the realm of the unfalsifiable.
You're not, but look, Ben, you can't come to me and say, everybody I know says he killed himself. And then I respond saying, I actually have my own sources who say he didn't. And then you say, well, your sources are not valid because they won't put their names on it. Okay, who are your sources? Let's go down the list, and then we'll talk about why they might be saying that.
Dude, until we hear the names of these people that you're talking about, they don't exist. There are no sources. I get so tired of hearing this whole anonymous sources here and there. I'm not saying he's not saying they're anonymous or anything. He's just not giving up the names, which makes them by default anonymous. So there are no sources right now, in my opinion.
My sources are the President of the United States,
Not according
the Vice
to
President of the United States,
uh-oh.
Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, Dan Bongino, the deputy head of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. And those aren't just my sources; they're everybody's sources because they publicly came out and said this.
Okay.
Well, they're being kind of vague with it, though, anyway.
Aspect of it.
But they all just said, no, he totally killed himself. That totally happened.
J.D. Vance was calling for transparency and suggesting otherwise prior to taking office. He hasn't commented on this so far, so he's not one of your sources.
He's the vice president.
You've got Kash, you've got Dan, and you've got Pam, and we've already discussed.
Honestly, I don't think anybody knows anymore because I think everything related to Jeffrey Epstein, I think it's all gone. I think they burned it all. I think they torched it all. I think it's all gone. You know, they took a page out of Hillary Clinton's playbook. They used bleach bit, they acid washed, they smashed the hard drives, they used hammers, sledgehammers, they used everything. They got rid of all this Jeffrey Epstein shit. That's my opinion. I think that's what they did. And the end, game over. We're never going to know. It's just forever going to be a conspiracy, kind of like the old JFK thing.
That memo in full detail. I'm talking about people behind the scenes who, prior to Trump taking office, I'm not going to get too specific. But trust me, I have high-level sources who have said they don't believe any of
come
that.
on, dude, with the fucking sources. Then tell us. If you've got all these sources so high level, they're not only high level, they are absurdly, extremely, ludicrously high level. They're the highest level ever. Like they're like moon level. They're extremely high level. Then why don't you just give us the names? It's so annoying when they brag about how they've got all these people that really know the truth as to what happened, but they don't tell us who. Why would you even bring it up then? If you're not going to tell us who knows what's the point in even bringing it up in the first place? I guess TV drama, I guess. I don't know.
And I'm not going to out them for purposes of convincing you, but you're
Why?
telling me name them. No, I'm not going to. I don't have
That is stupid.
And then you say, well, I dismiss all of it because you won't name
them. Well, as far as I'm concerned, then you're a liar.
Megyn, I'm not saying you should.
There are no sources then.
I'm saying they should name themselves because otherwise they are being complicit in one of the greatest cover-ups in the history of the American
That's easy for you to say.
Uh-huh.
That's easy. That's very easy
for
you to say. Okay.
Why?
For me to say? Why?
Because you'll have your job and you'll have your millions, no matter what they do.
Megyn, give me a break. If somebody came out today,
why the fuck would they even tell Megyn Kelly anyway? Why would they say, hey, I totally know that this happened and that happened? Even if they said that, how do you really know? I mean, like they might have just been blowing smoke up your ass. It doesn't matter what kind of high level person they are. They might not even know themselves. They probably heard something from somebody else. Some other high official probably told them, hey, Jeffrey Epstein this and the client list that and the flight logs this and that. How do we even really know? I mean, most of the stuff that was told to Megyn Kelly is probably word of mouth anyway. I'm sure she wasn't reading these top secret documents about what they found.
And they were a whistleblower on the greatest scandal in the history of the American Republic. They would make more money tomorrow than in their entire life working for the FBI. That's ridiculous.
Okay, there are reasons not to cross the people who are in charge. And that's all I'm going to say. And look, this is me not having drawn a conclusion. I don't know what the truth is. I've been reporting in a way. I mean, I see you've taken a...
Yeah, if somebody really knows, if they have the real deal information, the documents or whatever, and if they came out with it, I mean, I don't know if that'd be legal. It might be classified or top secret or whatever. But if they were able to come out with actual tangible black and white proof and they actually published it or they went and they ran to whoever, Wall Street Journal or New York Times or whoever, and said that here's the documents. I got the documents. Name your price. And I mean, they probably could name just basically any price they wanted because everybody wants to know what really happened. So if somebody has the actual truth, black and white paper, they probably could sell it for millions and millions of dollars. I mean, it would be no question that they wouldn't have to work for another day in their life if they really had it. But I don't think they even have it, though.
Side that you've chosen to believe the story that's being offered, and that's fine. A lot of people have. I'm not there yet. I don't actively say that there's a pedophile ring. I don't say any of that. I'm just following the facts, and we're not at the place.
Oh, come on, dude. We all know that. Pizzagate.
No, I can draw the conclusion.
Epstein Island.
That I'm seeing, and the people who are speaking about
Hollyweird.
lead me toward this particular
Casting
conclusion.
couch.
And if counter evidence is presented that is not speculative, then I will change my conclusion because that's what I've done on this case. Until this memo came out, I was weighing toward the more extreme version of this theory, and you can look back at my tweets and what I've said about it. And then this came out, and now my perspective has changed. When the facts change and the people who are speaking
I'm just not that trusting of government. There are other facts. They said not credible. There's no credible evidence. They talked about what was the qualifier?
Yeah, there's no credible evidence anymore.
Something like
it's all ashes now.
Client list or something.
Megyn, I'm not that trusting of government either, unless I know the exact people in government we're talking about.
Okay.
Like government is not just a giant.
All I've said so far is I trust Dan.
Government,
but do you believe that Dan has all the information? You believe Dan Bongino has everything? You believe he's seen all the SDNY had? You believe, what about Julie Brown's claims about the number of data, like the documents, the Department of Homeland Security, flight logs on who was on his...
I really think Dan Bongino really should come out and tell us exactly what he knows. If he's like, look, they haven't shown me anything. I've been asking for it. We've been demanding it. And we just keep getting empty file jackets. And we don't know. We don't know where the hell it is. We don't know what happened. You know, kind of leaning toward the fact that it was potentially destroyed. But I read the other day that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are talking about quitting the FBI over this. So I'm not sure if they've really changed their stance on that yet.
Planes. Do you believe he has all that in his purview and he's said, I've reviewed it all and none of it's persuasive? I don't believe that. I believe Dan's reviewed what's been made available to him by the pre-existing FBI. And in there, he hasn't come up with anything that proves Epstein was murdered or found some child pedophile ring that's been covered up. That's fine. I'll accept his word and effectively Kash's word and Pam's word to some extent on that. But it doesn't explain all these other questions that existed prior to them taking office that have been...
Then why would they do that big stupid photo op in front of the White House with all the journalists and those big binders saying, we've got the Epstein client list, we've got the Epstein files, we've got all this Epstein information, check it out. And they were getting all their stupid fucking pictures taken for the press and the media. And then what, like we got virtually nothing after that was done, that stupid stunt that they did. Even to this day, we don't know what the hell were in those binders. Probably nothing. There was probably nothing there all along. And Pam Bondi, obviously, she took a rash of shit for it because it made her look bad, and it should because we're still waiting. We're still waiting.
Been raised by people like Julie Brown, that have been raised by people like Pam Bondi before today, and I'm not satisfied.
Again, I'm unsatisfied at the amount of information that we're getting. But if the question is there information being hidden now?
Now, I don't know if I heard this as a conspiracy or not, but when they released those 10 hours of footage of the jailhouse or that hallway that was right next to Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell, which conveniently was barely off camera, they released 10 hours of it. Didn't they have a minute of it that was removed from the footage? I have a feeling that might just be just rumors or just people just spinning tales online. I don't know if that's actually true, but I did hear that somewhere, that apparently 60 seconds was removed from the footage, which could have been plenty of time for something to happen. I don't know if 60 seconds is enough time for someone to kill Jeffrey Epstein necessarily, but I don't know. I read about that somewhere, so I don't even know if that's really true or not.
From Dan or Cash or Pam, then I would like evidence that there's information hidden from them in the same way that I want them to be more transparent. Why is asking for evidence from all sides?
Well, are you not persuaded by this?
I don't think it was hidden. It was destroyed.
Like that DHS would have more information. What? That FBI,
it's
just
gone.
on their vault alone, has tons and tons of redacted information that you could see that they may or may not be able to see. I don't know. But that there's...
I mean, I can think of one person that would be better for this interview for Megyn Kelly than Ben Shapiro. I don't know. Ghislaine Maxwell kind of comes to mind. Why don't they have her on a show and have her speak about what exactly that she knows? Because wouldn't she arguably know just about as much as Jeffrey Epstein knew that Jeffrey Epstein knows? Because wasn't she in charge of hiring all of these minor teenagers to fly off to Epstein Island? Wasn't she behind all that stuff? So why don't we hear that from her? Or did she sign some non-disclosure agreement from the federal government so she's not allowed to talk about it?
Lots of information.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
She's claiming that quote that the FBI does have all that information.
Okay, so do you think she's lying? I mean,
wait, who? Who?
Redacted information that you could see that they may or may not be able to see. I don't know, but that there's lots of information still out there. Oh,
for fuck's sake,
man! Quote that the FBI does have all that information.
They're talking about Pam Bondi, right?
I mean, do you think that the redactions are not available to the FBI?
I think the redactions are available to the FBI. So what? You were making
sure
a moment ago that they actually are not available to Pam or Dan.
Well, that's my point. So why don't they put
them
out? So why wouldn't they come out and say, here are the documents that we have. We've redacted the following information. This is a child's name. This is a victim's name. Or where's the DHS?
Why would they have to redact anything beyond that, though?
Where's the Alan Dershowitz account of those names that I gave you, and what role, if any, they played in this matter? So, none of that's been provided.
I agree with you. They should be more transparent.
Right, and we've taken away different conclusions.
Right. Your conclusion is that they're covering something up, and my conclusion is that there's wild incompetence happening at the level of the Attorney General, and that's the reason why Dan is upset.
I think you're. I think
I kind of agree with them a little bit there.
Memo and a decision made by our administration.
The whole stupid ass photo op that they did a couple of months ago.
Far too much. I mean, I'm pro-Trump. I'm a Trump supporter, but I think they've made a decision that they want to put this in the rear view. You think it's because there's absolutely no there.
Dude, I think Trump doesn't know any more than anybody else.
I have doubts about whether that's true.
I mean, that's fine. And again, I'm open to doubts about whether that's true. But I think that once you have the doubts about whether they are lying to you, that's a different thing. Is it incompetence or lying? I mean, that really is the question, is it not?
You don't think even the Trump administration is capable of lying?
It's absolutely both, man. It's both.
They think there's a solid.
They're liars and they're retarded.
I mean, I'm wondering what they are lying about. And what
no, I'm not saying necessarily that Cash Patel, Dan Bongino. I'm not saying that all of them are retarded. I'm just saying that the outgoing administration, extremely incompetent, running around with, like a chicken with his head cut off, just not knowing what the hell they've been doing. I mean, frankly, I don't think that probably more than half of the federal government at any level in any department knows what they're really doing anyway. But I don't know, man. I really, I don't know, man.
So again, I think in your middle scenario,
it's fucking frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. Do you think
they're capable of doing it if they think it's for the greater good?
I think anybody is capable of lying if they think that it's for the greater good, of course. But I think that in order to answer the question of whether they are doing that, we would have to determine what greater good is being pursued and what the lie is. I think all this is a little vague.
That's why some of us are.
Why would lying about Jeffrey Epstein be good for the people? For the people, though, why would covering things up or getting rid of information relating to this case? Why would that be good for the people in general? I think what would be best for the people would be to give the people what they demand, and that's to find out the truth as to exactly what happened with Jeffrey Epstein, that he actually didn't commit you-know-what, and we want to know who's behind it. Who was behind it? Who ordered it? And, of course, we're never going to know that because if the federal government was to come out and say, okay, yeah, we did send in a couple of somebody sent in a couple of operatives, because nobody's going to say we did. They're going to push it on to somebody else. Well, we think it could be the CIA, and then we asked the CIA. Well, it could have been the FBI, but we don't really know. But like we do believe that Jeffrey Epstein, was a victim of a certain circumstance that was lethal in nature. But we're not going to get any names. We never will. I mean, I don't even think that the American people were ever expecting that to begin with. We just want to know the truth. What was he killed or wasn't he killed? And you know what? To be honest with you, at this point, if they were to come out and if they said, given the information that's classified, it's got too much sensitive information in it, we can't divulge this information, but 100% absolutely, Jeffrey Epstein did die in his cell by his own doing. And if you get all of these officials all in front of the cameras, all together, Trump and everybody beneath them, and if they all came out and said that he did indeed off himself, Control-Alt-Delete himself, the people would not believe it at this point. I'd love to see a poll of that, to see if they were to come out and actually said that he did off himself, how many people would truly believe that in total? What, maybe 5%, 6%? I think the vast majority of Americans would not even believe that if they were to come out and say that he actually did Control-Alt-Delete himself.
Are still asking questions. I mean, I'm not in the business of covering for any administration, Republican or not.
Megyn, not all the questions are the same. Asking a question about whether all the information has been released because there are figures who would be publicly humiliated because they were riding on Epstein's plane, but there's no evidence the person was raping a child, is not quite the same thing as some of the more outstanding claims.
I think the federal government loves us bickering over this while they're off doing something else completely different.
Okay, that's fine.
Smoke and mirrors, man. Misdirection.
Because no one on this set.
Don't pay attention to the
national deficit. Let's move on to point 2.
Don't pay attention to all this bullshit we're doing.
He was some sort of an agent, and that's a possible reason why he got a sweetheart plea deal, and or why to this day people aren't that interested in digging deep under the Jeffrey Epstein story. So there's a lot of speculation about this. You mentioned Tucker. I'll just play what he said at Turning Point, and we can take it from there.
All right, let's hear Tucker.
What the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of a foreign government?
And there's another one, SOT 3. Play that.
And I think the truth, for whatever it's worth, in case you're interested, is that the DOJ didn't release lots of incriminating sex videos with Epstein and his billionaire pals because they don't have them. They don't have them because when the original search warrant was served, 2007, I think, it was basically designed to protect Epstein.
Probably.
The search warrant was written in such a way to make sure that the feds never got their hands on the actually incriminating evidence. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from? And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. It's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been
even though they totally are a foreign government,
into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing
oh my God, we can't talk about that.
There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense.
Okay, so many people believe that. You could hear the cheers in the audience when he said he believes Epstein was
Tucker
working
is
for
the GOAT.
Mossad.
He's such a G.
I, on my Twitter feed today, laid out some of the evidence why people believe he was an agent. I don't know whether that's true. And if he was an agent, I don't know whether he was ours.
I don't know.
Or he was Mossad, or he was something else. But I know there's
could have been all the above.
Around on whether he was an agent. The most persuasive piece of which is where to get all that money. I mean, nobody's been able to answer the question following the money of how Jeffrey Epstein earned all that dough. Why is it problematic for Tucker
I don't
to
think
say,
he invented
I think
anything.
He was an agent. I
don't think he launched some Fortune 500 company.
I mean, Tucker can say whatever he wants. It's a free country. I think that if he's saying that he worked for Mossad and that no one has looked into it and that he was running a child sex ring on behalf of Mossad and the evidence should exist for that to happen, then just say the administration is covering for Mossad. I mean, if you're that certain of it and you believe that that's the case, then presumably the case that you're making is that the administration is now working for Mossad and covering up a child sex ring. So he can say that. That's fine. But I think he should then have the balls to say what Dave Smith said, which is that the Trump administration was covering for a child sex ring that was a blackmail scheme run by Mossad. If you want to actually say that, then say it. Okay. And then provide evidence to that effect. Because the only evidence that I've seen related to Jeffrey Epstein and Mossad, so far as I am aware.
Yep, never going to see anything related to that. Never going to happen.
From Vicky Ward at the Daily Beast, who I do not consider a verifiable source, about Alex
That's highly
Azar,
sensitive
She was on
information.
Epstein from the beginning, though.
I mean, her being on Epstein from the beginning doesn't mean she's a credible source. She ran for the Daily Beast, and she was arguing about a person who
She
said
worked for Vanity
secondhand
Fair.
Yes. So what? Vanity Fair's a shitty publication.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'm
agree
just
with
saying,
that.
like, that's fine. You can dislike Vicky Ward. I'm not running a defense for her.
No, but the point is that the Alex Azar quote that she is making is not even from Alex Azar. It is
Alex
a secondhand
Acosta.
anonymous quote. Thank you. Sorry. Alex Acosta, the prosecutor who ended up being labor secretary. Okay, Alex Acosta, that quote was not from Alex Acosta.
Trying to
It was
cover
from a
for his own
secondhand source,
mistake.
And that said that he was told to shut down the
From
investigation
Team Trump.
essentially because he was working for an intelligence agency. Right. That was that quote. And then
let me just give it exactly. I'll
I'll
just give it exactly
please,
because we need
sure.
to be precise. So she reported in Vanity Fair. Well, she reported for Vanity Fair like a definitive Epstein article, and then she updated it in the Daily Beast in 2019 when I think it was after Epstein died, or it could have been when Trump nominated him.
It's probably when they did the investigation into the
no, it had to be
Acosta
pardon,
exactly right or the
so she updated. He was already in office, Acosta, at this point. So she reported that. Stand by. I tweeted out. Now I'm looking to find it. Okay. That she had spoken with a member of the Trump transition team when Trump was taking office, who told her that when they talked to Acosta about possibly becoming the labor secretary, they said, is this Epstein thing, this settlement that you oversaw, going to be a problem for us? You know, because you're the guy who basically gave him that slap on the wrist. And that Acosta had told the Trump transition team that Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, end quote, and that he'd been ordered to, quote, leave it alone, end quote, and that he'd, quote, been told to back off. He later was on the record, Ben, as saying Maine Justice was the one who told him to settle that case and that they had approved of the Epstein plea deal. So that's him. We know that Maine Justice did tell Alex Acosta to settle that case. What we don't know is whether he in fact said all that stuff to the Trump transition team.
Well, he was asked about this at a hearing, I believe, a congressional hearing, and he said that there are a lot of rumors out there and you shouldn't believe everything you read, I believe was something close to the direct quote from the congressional
We
hearing
have it. We have it,
yeah,
right, Deb? Do we have sorry, stand by. We have it on camera.
All right.
It was first
Let's go.
asked, it was a press conference on July 10th, 2019. This is the first we know of that he was asked about Vicky Ward's report. Watch.
Secretary, were you ever made aware at any point your handling of this case if Mr. Epstein was an intelligence asset of some sort?
So there has.
Oh yeah, that's the smile of a liar.
Effect. And let me say, there's been reporting to a lot of effects.
Not a good poker face, man.
Not just now, but over the years. And again, I would hesitate to take this reporting as fact. This was a case that was brought by our office. It was brought based on the facts. And I look at that reporting and others. I can't address it directly because of our guidelines. But I can tell you that a lot of reporting is just going down rabbit holes.
What guidelines?
I'm sorry, but that's a non-denial denial. And he never came out to deny it in any other way after Vicky Ward reported it. I'm not persuaded by his denial at all. He did later tell the Office of Professional Responsibility within the DOJ when he was asked during an investigation that he did not say that to the Trump transition team. So later, outside of the public setting, he reportedly did deny Vicky Ward's reporting. But I have questions about that too, because that's the Department of Justice investigating itself. And under this theory that Epstein was compromised and the DOJ knew it, the DOJ would have been the one to tell Alex Acosta to drop it. And then the DOJ would have been sitting down with Alex Acosta saying, did we tell you to drop it or didn't we? So I can see why people have doubts about that later testimony. Again, I don't know what's true, but that's a very weaselly answer he just gave at that point.
Yeah, I kind of agree with her there.
Fair to say it's a weaselly answer. It's also fair to say that the original quote was never confirmed by anybody on the record.
It
correct?
doesn't conform to our
at the very best, that one
guidelines, so I
it's
can't
dicey.
say
I
anything.
think the best you can say about that particular claim is dicey, both for and against. Right, and I see why you can take away either conclusion.
There's
yes?
also
is that fair?
Yes. But look, there's also the matter, like I said, of the money, And there's also the question
the
of
money's super suspicious, but I think that's really more about Leon Black signing him a check for like $160 million for unspecified financial services, right? And then Leon Black later claimed that he had.
Right, exactly. Where is his area of expertise exactly that would warrant $160 million?
You know, there's this former Israeli.
What kind of consulting did he give the government or a foreign government that would justify that amount of fucking money?
Well, that was litigated, and actually, if you look up this guy's Wikipedia, it's actually quite interesting.
Like the same bullshit with Hunter Biden working for Burisma Holdings.
It appears he was. It appears he was, and there was this whole long trial in which they tried to disown him, and it failed. They failed. So I think he is former in Israeli intel, and this guy has come out to say Epstein was a Mossad agent, and that he, this Ari Ben Menashe, was the agent who handled him. Others, including Danny Yatom, who ran the Mossad for 3 years, say that's not true. And this morning we had Naftali Bennett come out publicly as a former Israeli prime minister saying, I was with the Mossad. And I mean, the Mossad reported directly to me. And I say to you with 100% certainty, the accusation that Epstein worked for Israel or the Mossad running a blackmail ring is categorically and totally false.
Well, of course he'd say that.
I mean, I actually followed up with Bennett to ask for more clarification on that. And what he actually told me is that Mossad has not run an operative against the United States or in the United States since Jonathan Pollard was convicted in 1987. Because
of course they're going to say that.
Pissing off the United States.
What do you think they're going to be honest with you?
About whether Epstein wasn't an agent, but
you're a media guy. I mean, they're not going to really tell you. They're not going to trust that information with you.
Asset is a really weird word in terms of intel, because he was also accused of being an asset for both the Saudis and MI6, right? So there are multiple.
Dude, if anybody told Megyn Kelly or Ben Shapiro some real deal information with regard to Jeffrey Epstein or what he was up to and anything at all, really, I mean, they're gonna blab about it almost immediately. I mean, that's what they do. This is what they do for a living. They talk about shit, and I mean, why wouldn't they do it? Other than, well, I have to protect my sources and everything. Yeah, I get it. I understand that to an extent, but I mean, with this story being red hot, white hot at this point, I don't think that they would really hold all that much information back if they really had anything to go on. So I don't exactly believe either one of them.
Agencies for whom he could theoretically have been considered an asset. Is not necessarily, by the legal definition, somebody who is like working for a foreign government. It could be somebody who is giving information to a foreign government under a wide variety of auspices. And so, you know, that's a lot vaguer. What we do know from, what we do know from the public statements is that he was not working for an American intelligence agency. The Israelis say he wasn't working for them. Now, one of the weird sort of unfalsifiable aspects of this case is that if Mossad says somebody's not working for them, are they or are they not? Right. So usually,
well, same with our intel.
Well, right, exactly. And so
this
is kind of my problem with this
we
case.
got so much intel.
For more same as you, more transparency, more evidence.
Libraries of intel.
That the DOJ and FBI are correct in their
so much, but we can't talk about it.
You tend to not. But I think that we're coming to the same conclusion,
mainstream media
release everything you got, because I don't think anybody should be afraid of the answers.
Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your own.
All right, well, that's it. Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro, they debate whether Epstein was an intelligence asset for America or Israel. I mean, look, there's too many higher-ups that are involved with Jeffrey Epstein. That's why I don't think we're going to really get the truth as to what happened. I mean, if we really got the truth about everything that Epstein was involved with, not just his, control-alt-deleting of himself, but like Megyn Kelly said, the money and all the influence and everything that he obtained in the years that he was doing whatever the hell he was doing, I think if we found out the truth behind all of it and everybody that was involved, I think any and all faith in our federal government would completely collapse if we really get the truth behind Epstein and his money. And all the people who went to his island, all these government officials and everything he was involved with, I really think that we would have some serious problems with our faith in the federal government if that were ever to come out, which I think that's why we're not going to get any information from it. It's just going to be a giant conspiracy because these days it seems like the federal government, they love to spin these conspiracies like the Tic Tac UFOs and all this other bullshit that they've got us chasing these days. And speaking of all the Jeffrey Epstein stuff that's been released, according to The Hill, this just came out at 2:29 p.m. today, so just a few hours as of this recording, just 3% are satisfied with the amount of Epstein information that has been released. And let me just make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to read. So just 3% of Americans say they're satisfied with the amount of information the federal government has released in the case involving disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, according to a CNN an SSRS survey released on Tuesday. Meanwhile, 50% of U.S. adults say in the poll that they are dissatisfied with the amount of information released. 29% they say that it doesn't matter to them either way, and 17% say that they haven't heard enough to say. But the poll was conducted late last week into the weekend, followed the release of a July 7th memo from the Justice Department that concluded Epstein did not keep a client list to blackmail high-profile individuals, refuting popular conspiracy theories that have been circulating for years among segments of President Trump's base. But this gets interesting here in a minute, and I'll show you. The memo also reaffirmed an early finding that Epstein died by suicide in his jail cell. Yeah, we already know that. Some of Trump's most ardent supporters have been particularly outraged at the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein case over the last week, but the survey showed broad dissatisfaction across demographics and party lines. Now check this out. Republicans are slightly less likely than Democrats to say that they're dissatisfied with the amount of information released in the case at 40% compared to Democrats at 56%. So Democrats are even more pissed off than Republicans are about this. Among independents, 52% say that they're dissatisfied. But with the satisfaction rate holds steady across party lines, with 3% of Democrats and independents saying they're satisfied compared to 4% of Republicans who say that they're satisfied. So Republicans are more likely to say it doesn't matter to them either way at 38%, compared to just 27% of Democrats and 26% of independents. That is interesting to me. Broken down by partisan divides, 7% of conservatives, they say that they're satisfied with the amount of information on Epstein that the federal government has released, compared to just 2% of both liberals and moderates. Meanwhile, a striking 66% of liberals are dissatisfied with the amount of information released, and compared to 48% of moderates and 42% of conservatives. And relatively few liberals, 18%, say it doesn't matter to them either way, compared to 32% of both moderates and conservatives. So there you have it, coming directly from the Hill. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it.